What Sports Spotlight is about. We had a women's series yesterday. Today is the men's series, and it's really just storytelling about the journey of sports. So I have three distinguished guests with us that all participated in athletics in one form or fashion, and I'll let them introduce themselves so we can get started. We're going to start at the end with Reggie Brooks.
My name is Reggie Brooks. I'm from Tulsa, Oklahoma. Grew up there, went on to play football for the University of Notre Dame, and then played in the NFL with the Washington, where they were the Redskins at the time, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And then I spent 15 years as a sport administrator at the University of Notre Dame, and now currently working as the executive director for Hostess Heroes Foundation.
So my name is Herb Martin, and I actually grew up in Detroit, Michigan. I was introduced to the whole concept of working in sports psychology by virtue of hanging out with my roommate, who had a very, very tough life coming up in football. And for years, I followed the path of understanding athletes, and ultimately ended up working with the National Football League for about 30 years. And I'm currently the treating clinician for the Los Angeles Chargers.
Hi everyone, my name is Quinn Goss. I attended Rutgers University, played for the Philadelphia Eagles, the Denver Broncos, and also the New England Patriots. Currently, after I retired, I ended up starting a couple companies, and currently the company I have is called RiseWell, and we do a lot of technology with VR job training and also employee engagement. So from football to business.
All right. And I'll give you a little bit about my background. I fell in love with football when I was 4 or 5 years old. They called it the game of the century. Oklahoma lost to Nebraska. My mom took a picture of me crying like a baby when Oklahoma lost. But from that point on, I fell in love with football. I started playing in the 3rd grade and played through college. And so the mindset of athletes in transition is part of what we want to start with. And Dr. Martin, he didn't share that with you, but he was a Detroit hooper. He played on the hardwood, on the hard top, and was a really good shooter, but he didn't share that with you guys.
No, I was going to save that for after the game.
Yeah, but in no particular order, just talk to me about really your passions as athletes. Like, what are you really passionate about as a former athlete?
I'll say mine, like what I'm really passionate about is just when I getting up in the morning to go work out, to train my body, to really allow myself to be the ultimate person I want to be, like challenge myself every single day. That's something that like it's always driven me from a kid. From 8th grade, going to the gym, I had like my uncle as my trainer, and he used to say, you want to be great, you got to wake up early in the morning, before you go to school, and then take the bus to school, and then come back to the gym at night. So that's been instilled in me, and it's like still in me today, and I kind of translate it over to like business now. So I think as that athlete core of me will never go away.
For me, my passion is seeing others excel. My dad was my first coach. I ran track, played football, wrestled, and my passion is to see other young people, live their best selves and encourage them to be their best selves. And also understanding the importance of family. Family is crucial to me. I'm a father of 5, and I was able to coach all of my kids except my last one because she did not do a sport that I understood or anything. She was in dance and gymnastics, so I'm still trying to learn how to deal with that. But I'm a firm believer in, again, the importance of family, supporting legacy to build, and just feed into our kids, but also listen to our children to hear what they've done, what they want to do, and not always press upon them what we want them to do, because it's probably not like with the last one. There was a lesson learned for me because I learned how to listen to my children to understand their purpose and not my purpose for them.
So, gosh, I have a number of passions, but I think the reason why I even entered this field, my roommate was a very highly recruited football player while I was at the University of Michigan. And at the time, I was thinking about going to law school. But in my junior year, I was just impacted by the difficulty and challenges for individuals that had been injured. A lot of the players used to come by my apartment, and I said, I really want to do something to help young men go through this important transition in their lives and preparing for the future, whether it be pro football or whatever the case may be. So many, many years ago, before sports psychology, I think, became vogue, I never left that idea, and ultimately I really have a lot of passion today about helping young men reach their dreams professionally or even athletically in college. And so I've spent most of my adult life doing that. So.
Yeah. So it's really important to highlight the celebrity and entertainment part of what athletes experience. But we don't care that much about that today. So we're going to spend one question on touchdowns and interceptions and plays and all of that. Because the identity that has been created is the biggest problem in transition. And so we're going to tell, every reunion I go back to, somebody tells me about a 6th grade touchdown they scored. And who cares? And so we're going to have one memory lane kind of experience. What did you really love about the thing, the locker room or the playing experience? And then we're just going to move on to the deeper dive of what's really important.
Well, I guess I'll start. I have a play that I actually don't remember until I actually saw it on film the next day. I was knocked unconscious. I scored a touchdown unconscious, and it was actually against Michigan when I was in Notre Dame.
I saw that.
Yeah,
No,
it's,
just kidding.
I don't encourage people to ever try that. It's not the most. I don't remember the game actually. I actually went back and played the rest of the game, so I guess it's not a memory. It's just I saw it on film the next day, and it's like, wow, that was pretty cool. But I scored a touchdown unconscious.
Wow.
I would say when I was at
That would cool. If people be in the hospital right now, it'll be because I did that.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, back then they just said you had your bell rung and they give you smelling sauce and you go back out there and keep going.
Yeah, you just keep going. Like I said, you just keep going, living your dreams and your life.
That's right.
Exactly.
Go ahead, Quinn.
That's for sure.
So I would say when I was at Rutgers, there's two good ones, but I'm gonna go with Rutgers. I remember, it was my first start at linebacker my first start at linebacker, and we're playing against Arkansas. It was 2014. You can look at it on YouTube. I remember the night before, I went to sleep before we had to go, do our team meetings and stuff, and I literally had a whole vision of the whole game. Like when they say close your eyes and envision what you're gonna do, I went to sleep and envisioned the whole game. I had 20 tackles. I had a forced fumble. Literally the next day when I played the game, I had someone forced the fumble, but I picked it up and scored a touchdown. Wow. I had 20 tackles in the game. So when you envision something, it becomes real in real life. So that was one that I was like really blown away by. I was like, wow, I really just envisioned the whole game, and it actually happened. So yeah, that was my funnest one.
Yeah, I was an average college athlete. I started 2 seasons, one at Wichita State and one at Howard University. But the real issue that resonates in my heart every day is the locker room. Like my buddies that I love from 4th grade to my senior year. And the thing I remember most about the last game I played, we lost to Delaware State my senior year, and so we didn't win the championship, right? And I really remember being relieved that I didn't have to chase championships anymore. Because every season you're supposed to win, and when you don't, you're a failure, And I played on really good teams all my life. But you can never please the fans. Everyone wants more. So that would be my memory. So let's talk a little bit about the day when it was over. And so I want Dr. Martin to start, because this is the NFL. Come get all your stuff and go get this ticket and go home. It's not about, oh, we want to help you transition, send you to a counselor. We have all these outplacement services. The process in high school, college, and pro is simple. When your eligibility expires in high school and college, you got to go. After you finish playing in the NFL for 4 years, barely is the average, you got to go. So Dr. Martin, talk about the conversations you have to have with athletes at that point, and then I want Quentin and Reggie to jump in about the feelings they experienced.
Well, it's really interesting. Approximately 2 weeks ago, we were in a playoff game, and we lost that game, on a Sunday. No, we lost it on Saturday, and on Monday, the players came in for what are called exit interviews. And I would say that probably maybe a third of those players I'll never see again. And a third of those players will never have that camaraderie that you refer to in the locker room. And maybe, and I don't know what the statistics are, but there'll be a large majority of those individuals that may not necessarily get picked up again. And so what is so striking, which is a lot different than what most of us in this room will experience, is that one injury, perhaps one game, and perhaps one season can result in you not having an opportunity to continue to do something that you love, that you have a very close relationship to, in other words, identity to. And then once that happens, what happens to the relationships that you have? What happens to the family expectations that have grown since you were 8 years old? What happens to your sense of self? And in fact, as I had alluded to before, that's what happened to the guy who was my roommate, which led me to this field. But to say in short, if you could just imagine in this room, any of you, doing what you love to do, and I see a lot of young people in this early group up here, right up here, but imagine not being able to go to school and to have the relationships that you have with your friends, and then not really know what's next. And I think that when we talk about adulthood, and we're talking about you spending most of your development, and then you not really having a clear example, because this is not the norm. Imagine what that would look like, and imagine how empty that might feel. So in terms of the conversations that I have, and as I mentioned to you 2 weeks ago, we had this experience, the players are on their way out because they don't want to deal with the reality of not knowing. And so I, many times, am in a position where I have to have those conversations, but those conversations are difficult when the guys aren't there. But they're difficult, very difficult conversations to talk about, or to try to encourage a guy to realize that he has a future when that may be unclear. So despite whatever knowledge I may have, despite whatever experiences I may have, I'm really talking about the unknown. And sometimes I have to provide the truth to young men, and I try to provide that truth all the time. But the stark reality is that everything that I just told you is very much a part of their experience. And I have a lot to say about this, and I don't want to take too much time, but because I have a lot of feelings about the reality of pro sports, the reality of pro football, and the longevity or lack thereof, and what it means not only for the players, but for a family and perhaps a generation. So
I'm going to redirect a little bit. Quentin said when I retired, so I'm going to redirect when you got fired.
Right.
Because only Barry Sanders and Megatron and Jim Brown quit, right? When you got fired, how did you feel?
I would say, yeah, well, man. When I got fired, I got released from the Denver Broncos, and instead of normally, like you know, I'm from New York, so I had to ship my car all the way back home. Instead of shipping it, I was like, you know what? I'm going to drive to New York. I'm going to talk to God in the car, have a conversation with him about what's next, because I'm going to use that time just to, like, meditate. What does he want me to do? So what I ended up doing, I drove in the car 24 hours. I was very angry in the car, but and I got back home, pretty quickly. Only did like a couple stops and got back home. I ended up thinking about, okay, first thing that came to mind, grab a camera and begin filming. And I'm like, why grab a camera? So I started doing that. I started traveling to different countries and filming for hotels, filming for tourism boards. And then that created a company. Like, that's just from like, hey, I'm gonna try something. I'm gonna go and do something that maybe, I was a communications major. I'm gonna attempt and see what happens. I was supposed to do sports broadcasting, something, after I retired, I was like, I don't wanna do that. So I transitioned, but I felt frustrated. I felt a little bit of anger. I felt like I wasn't seen. And there was a lot of transition during that time on that team that I played for. So it felt unfair. But I took that drive so I wouldn't just fly home and just go, sulk in my own sadness. But I really went and it's like, okay, let me try something else. Let me do what's the next thing for me to do then? Because I can't sit in this sadness.
Reggie?
For me, I was released by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I was father of 3, and felt like a failure. Felt like, I let my family down. I was frustrated, angry, disappointed in myself, but more of, like, why is this happening? This confusion, because I thought I had performed fairly well in training camp, and for it to end, and I had the previous year was there. I was actually started several games, and was coming back the next year. Thought, hey man, this is a place I can raise a family, and like I said, family is very important to me, and to go back home and look at my daughter and sons and wife, and I just felt like I let them down. I put them and it was like, okay, what's next? But again, for me, it was like, I have to. A lot of guys can kind of go and, I'm glad you had that opportunity to kind of find yourself. I had to pack up and drive my family and get them somewhere safe, and we wind up going back to Tulsa, where I was from. But again, it was like, and again, when I got back there, I was in depression. Sure. I was like, just still trying to figure out why did this happen? What did I do wrong? And because they don't come up and we didn't have a sports psychologist to sit there and kind of figure it out. It was just like, you get called in, they ask for your the playbook and your equipment, you turn your stuff in and bye. There's no transition. It's just, we've got what we got. We got out of you what we wanted, so you on your own. And and that always stuck with me. And just to see other young people, how do we keep that from happening to them? Because again, I just felt like, man, that is ruthless. And and again, I was 25, 26 years old. I was still pretty young, but it was just like, dang, can you imagine if, someone, because I had seen guys be released, when I was playing, and, and it just, and they were guys, like I said, and you mentioned it, guys like these guys you're in the locker room with. You get to know their families. You get to know them as human beings. And it is very, it's almost degrading that you can use you up and then toss you aside. And that just always stuck with me to how do we prevent people from, just the mental side of that is debilitating. I was in depression for about, 3-4 months. I mean, I wouldn't even talk to anybody, wouldn't talk to my wife, wouldn't talk to my parents I didn't want to speak to anybody.
Yeah, so I want to anchor in on some words I heard, right? Anger, disappointment, fear, frustration. Dr. Martin talked about just the feeling side. And so when we talk about psychosocial wellness, when we talk about community, I want to ask a two-part question. And really, I want it to be developmentally answered as well. So the age you are, how you think about it now. And it really is, who was there for you, and how did you cope with the social environment when you were alone? Because I've seen guys, like I worked for the NFL, right? And I worked for the NCAA. And there's many people, that's the only way they define me, right? So now I've been owning my own company for 20 years. And I feel sometimes I just have to say the NFL or the NCAA. And it has nothing to do with my identity, but people like that. And so I use it really inappropriately sometimes because that's not me. They don't care about me. Neither one of those organizations have the capacity to care about one person. So speak to the world you're in when it's over.
Yeah, I think that when it's over and you that's what he was talking about. Like you went through some depression. I mean, I went through it too as well. I mean, on that drive, I had my family there to help me. I had a fiance at the time. She kept me in a good state of mind. Was very positive. But there was the depression buildup. I didn't watch football for a while. It took me like a year to two. I didn't watch for like 2 years straight. And they're like, "Hey, Quinn, did you watch the game last night?" I'm like, "Nope, I didn't even turn on the TV. Like, I can't watch it." Because, like, there's guys that that I just played with that are still playing. And I'm like, I know I'm good enough to play right next to these guys. I just tackled that guy on Saturday, and I'm not playing again the last couple months. I'm seeing him play. So it's like those thoughts go through your head. You start, you have to think about all these things, but then you get to a place where like, okay, yeah, what's my identity? Who am I? Why? This is not the end. The NFL is not for long. So you're not here forever. So what's the next step? And my uncle and my dad always emphasized that from, again, 8th grade, always said that. But like when it hits you, I mean, it's just a different feeling. So I had to sit down. I went through, it was a couple months of just taking time to take walks in the park, going in the neighborhood in upstate New York, trees by the water, by the lake, just walking and just talking to God, just walking by myself and just getting my head out of what I was just in, and then getting into the new season that I was transitioning into. And that's what I went through during that time. And to where I'm at now, like it's different, but like the mental process I had to go through, just watching what you're seeing on TV, seeing the guys, it did hurt. But when I had my family there for me, they just kept emphasizing, like, remember what we told you. Like, keep pushing forward. Like, I had an IEP in school, individual education plan, 504 plan. So they used to call me, "Oh, you're a little stupid, Quentin. Like, you're not learning these concepts correctly." Man, I got a 4.0 in college. I ended up getting the chance to overcome that. So why can't I overcome this as well? But you got to think, like, we do as athletes go through these mental barriers, like after this type of stuff's happened. So just for you to see it, what happens on the back end, that's some of the mental heaviness that we deal with.
Dr. Martin?
Yeah, it's really interesting when you say not only when you retire, but also questioning yourself if you're injured, questioning yourself if you're not playing, questioning yourself if you're not in rotation because you don't have the relationship with your coach. So I often have to deal with those questions with players and help to empower them. And at the same time, I'm often conflicted because I understand the game and I understand the reality and I know how short it is. So it's very difficult for me, based on my own value system, to tell a young man, look, man, you got to do what you got to do. And at the same time, you have to perform and realize at the same time while you wear whatever that helmet was, the Denver Broncos, that in my messaging to you, you need to understand that it is a business. And for many young African American men, they don't understand that because the currency is different, because it's based on relationship and not business currency. And so I think it's extremely important, you know, and I've been blessed, I've been privileged to be able to have those conversations with young men that I work with, to be able to explain that that is, for this period of time, you need to manage the duality of sport. And the duality of sport is such that you better prepare yourself for life while concurrently giving your life to football.
That's good.
So that's a challenge. That is an extreme challenge, and it's one of the many conversations that I have with players. You know, I guess I've been around a little while, so I can have that conversation, and perhaps people believe me when I tell them. So, yeah, Guy, I mean, that's a great question, and it's wonderful, again, that you've been able to do your thing, man.
Yeah, hey, Reggie, so you scored a touchdown unconscious, and you got your bell rung. And so is your bell still rung? Where are you right now in your headspace? I mean, it's a really, really important, I mean, I'm trying to make light of it, right? But Tua wants to play again, right? And so let's just talk candidly about protecting our brains and the decisions athletes have to make around that.
Well, again, you know, I'm 54 now, and so, you know, the NFL was a different place, different time then. I do feel the NFL has developed some programming that's much better, and some opportunities. And like I said, when I was working with the University of Notre Dame in athletic administration, one of my responsibilities was alumni relations for athletes. And, you know, I would connect with NFLPA, the NFL, WNBA, NBA, NHL. And because again, I didn't want, you know, kids to kind of suffer the same stress and anxiety that I went through. And a lot of that has to do with you know, stepping up and understanding what, you know, the NFL stands for not for long. You know, so you're not going to be here for any period of time, but how do you make that transition to the next aspect of life? And it sounds great, transition and you move on to, it's not that easy. You know, it is extremely difficult to transition from something that, you know, I started playing football, tackle football when I was 8 years old.
Right.
So I've, you know, run into many large individuals and and had my bell rung more times than I care to remember. But it's, you know, having the mental fortitude to walk through those times. And again, like I said, I was one that, you know, just, you don't want people to see your weakness. You feel like if someone sees you in a vulnerable state, that's weakness. And, you know, where I grew up, you know, when you're weak, you get attacked. So you have to always be on guard, always be in a protection mode. And that's more about your physical protection, but really didn't process mental health. It's like, you know, you got your bell rung, you know, strap it up and keep going. You know, I will say, like, where I am now, I'm in a much better place. I you know, actually go to the doctor now. I mean, I remember my only physical or any interaction with doctors was my physical with the team. You know, I never, you know, very seldom got sick, but it was a lot of things that I didn't process because I didn't want to feel like I'm giving in a weakness. And so, and especially, I mean, I knew, and I'm still trying to figure out the whole, you know, psychological aspect of life. And, you know, it's hard to articulate the mind. But I want to encourage you to say, you know, lean into those areas of health that you don't understand. You know, I understood, like I said, what if you get a strain in your knee, or the degree of you know, whether your leg is broken or if it's a strain, a stress. Same thing with your mind. You know, there's levels of depression. levels of anxiety, traumatic brain injuries, which I didn't know anything about until just the last 7 or 8 years. And I got myself checked out. Because, you forget some stuff, and it's like, oh, it's just age. But then you start getting like, wait a minute, let me, it'll have you thinking and kind of like, whoa, am I okay or not? And, and again, my kids, and I said, I'd like to, say hey to my son who's here, 27, because I wanted him to be a part of this because he played football, and I want him to understand the importance of the psychology of life is important. You have to let people know what's going on. We have to be more intentional about our health, our mental health, just as much as our physical health, but we need to engage in that relational side of it and let other people know where we are. I didn't do that, and I don't want that to be passed down to my son, this macho, I can fight through anything. You can't. We all need each other. Every day in life, I've been blessed. I have a wife of 30 years. She's put up with me for all this time. I figured, like I said, she's stuck with me now. But just what she's gone through with me, what I've gone through with her, and we had to fight. It wasn't easy. And having kids, like I said, I'm blessed to have 5 beautiful children. I don't know what she was thinking, giving birth to 5 kids, because amazing woman. But I am a better person, and I have a better understanding of life because I have a better understanding of my own mental health.
Hey, so who on the panel willingly walked through the door to see a clinician, and tell us about the day you chose to do that if you've done that?
Would you repeat that question?
Who on the panel willingly walked through the door to see a clinician? It wasn't a condition of probation or parole. The team didn't make you go because you failed a drug test. You actually walked through the door and said, hey, I need to see someone about an issue.
I didn't walk through a door, it was telehealth. This is around when COVID was going on, and I will say this, I am impressed by my children because they kept on me about, Dad, you need to talk to somebody. You need to talk to somebody. And I'm like, I don't know. They're head shrinker people, I don't know about that. But it's in setting up the call, I wanted to first, because I'm not very trusting. I'm not a very trusting person. I have a very tight group of people that I trust, and I ain't talking to some random person that just start digging into my life. I don't know you. Don't come at me. So I had to start to let down some fences and walls, and it was just so happened it was a young lady, African American, and she was very understanding because she helped me work through a lot of issues that I had just blocked out. I mean, I literally, in life, like I said, I grew up in a household, I was the youngest of 4, and my brother used to kick my butt every day, except Sundays. We fought. And again, it was childhood trauma that I hadn't dealt with, and I had blocked out. And so she did a great job of helping me break down the barriers, and she didn't just come in and full court press me. She allowed me to sit with some of my thoughts and some of the questions, and if it was a question I didn't really want to deal with, she said, table it, we'll come back. So it took a while, but I eventually started to see the importance of, talking to people. I talk to people all the time, but you're not saying anything to anybody. You're not giving them anything of value of who you are. And as I work with her to work through my struggles, it helped me to see that your brain, your thought process, your mind is literally the most important thing you have. Because physically, body is just starting to break down. I'm still fairly intelligent, I got my master's degree and was, dean's list. So, I felt, I can think fairly well. But she helped me to see that your mind is more than just, the intellect and the information that you process. There's more to you and more to your mind that you have to deal with to help open you up to see more possibilities, more opportunities. And it definitely improved my relationship with my kids because, again, I grew up like, do what you're told and just sit down somewhere. And my first 3 kids, they would tell you, I'd beat that behind. Last 2, they got away with a lot. But you know better, you do better. Yeah. And like my baby girl, she's got me wrapped around her finger, and I'm cool with that because I have a better sense of purpose and self, and I can see it in her. Being more open with my mental health has helped me to have a better relationship with my daughter and with my wife. We're doing pretty good. I actually did not expect to live to see 50. Just growing up, and I never dealt with that. And now that I'm 54, I feel like I'm playing with house money. So we're gonna ride this thing out.
Wow.
Let's go.
So, Quentin or Dr. Martin, have you seen clinicians and talked to us about how you got to that point?
Yeah, so after I finished playing, I took time to sit down and understand, I was big, when leaving Rutgers, I was big on making sure my body was good because there were some small injuries I may have had coming out before the draft and stuff. So when I was done playing ball, I was like, okay, I want to make sure I go in, with a physical therapist, make sure I'm just do a double check, make sure everything's good, as if you're taking the car to the shop, right? Go get the oil change, make sure you're good. So I did that, but when it came to the mental side, it took me a couple years to talk to a therapist. It took me a couple years because, I'm gonna keep it real. Some pride builds up, and you're just like, I'm good. I can handle my thoughts pretty well. I'm fine. And that pride builds up, but you gotta have somebody that you could talk to. That's a third party that is non-biased. That's not gonna agree with you on everything. So I ended up doing it one day and just I'm gonna finally talk to a therapist. It took me a little while. And the NFL offers good benefits for that stuff. So I ended up going ahead, talking to a therapist, and guess what? It's the best thing I've ever done. It is the best thing I've ever done. I'm gonna say for any person in here that has not talked to a therapist, and that you gotta find a good fit for you, right? But find someone that you can match with that's going to hear you out, but also keep it real with you. I needed someone and I told them, I said, keep it 100% with me, please. Because I need to see my flaws. I need to see where are the areas that I'm struggling in. So we dove into the NFL stuff. That was the first piece, and then it was relationship stuff that I needed to iron out. And yeah, it was a lot of areas that I was hurting in that I didn't think I was. And she was seeing it seeing it when we were talking, but I just never noticed it. I never embraced it. One thing I want to share with y'all is anytime you maybe have a confrontation with someone or you have maybe there's some issues that come up, because I had some more mental confrontations in the sense of once I got released from the team and different things like that. When you hold on to bitterness, if you have any unforgiveness, that will hurt you. And I don't mean just I forgive that person and then walk away. All right, they're fine. No, that inkling where I forgive them, but when you see them again, it's that little hurt that's still there. Yeah, let's talk about that. Really, you got to let that stuff go, and then also maybe even approach the person. Maybe you can't, but I had to get into a place of forgiveness, release all the bitterness, and then there was a heaviness that lifted off of me once I did that. So I would encourage you to definitely see someone that's a therapist or someone that can help in those areas. So it definitely, after the game, it helped me, and I needed it.
Quinn, we talked a little bit about the kingdom world and your spiritual beliefs, your religious beliefs. I know that you talked to clergy, but Dr. Martin, can you just wrap it up in a bow for us about your own experience? You are the helper. You are the clinician. So who helps you?
That's
Good question.
my wife. You're sitting in the audience. You know, Guy, it's a great question. And I have a group of friends. I have a group of close friends that I can rely on, including you, that I can be honest and also vulnerable with. And I think, speaking to what you talked about earlier, it's very difficult as a man to be vulnerable in this world and also to be reared and reinforced for being strong. And in my position, it's even more difficult because I think I have the answers, but I don't when it comes to me. So again, as you mentioned, Q, having that trusting relationship is pivotal to success. And I would say for all of the young people here, you know, whether it be a therapist, whether it be a counselor, whether it be your minister or your parent or someone that you respect. And to your point about self-awareness, when you recognize that there's something that's going on with you, I think it's important for you to address that issue. Because unlike not unlike having a broken arm, if you keep on getting hit there, the cumulative effects of that mental anguish or pressure or pain will break you, literally and figuratively.
Yeah, so I want you guys to get ready to ask a few questions of the panel, and then we're going to end this panel at 2:15, is that right? Yeah, so we got about 25 minutes to, I think that math was right.
Close enough, close
Yeah,
enough.
yeah.
But we really want to give our students here an opportunity to ask questions for sure.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
You have to stand up and tell everyone your name.
Oh, that's fine.
Hi, hello. My name is Abigail Early. I'm from Collegiate Baton Rouge. And I would like to ask you, what's some advice you can give young athletes that can possibly better guide them through their sports?
Okay. I'll say some advice is like to help you guide you through your sport, just as a younger athlete, is when I was younger, when I was playing like in high school and then like got a chance to transition to college, I always made sure I had my goals written down, right? I had specific goals. So I told you about the 4.0 I got in college, all that stuff. I wrote that down back in, I think I was in 10th grade. It was like for high school, get a 3.5 GPA, and then like college, get a 4.0, get a scholarship, go to the NFL, and then beyond that, I kind of stopped it there and then had to write some new ones. But like having some goals written down, and then how can you transfer that for like your daily routine? So are you consistent as an athlete, as a person? Are you consistent? Do you get up in the morning when you need to get up? Are you sticking to the routine you need to stick to that's going to give you the success you need? I think that's going to help. Like, I know it sounds super simple, but that's one of I think the biggest things is like, can you show up every day doing that same thing, hitting it going to the gym, making sure you're watching the film you need to watch, making sure you're working on your technique. Are you doing that? Do you want to be the best? I mean, I know I'm a millennial. I know you got Gen Z, and then you got Gen Alpha coming up soon. So like, some people feel like they Michael Jordan, automatically coming out the gate, going to high school, college. So it's like, are you working on the small things to make you great? I mean, you heard about Kobe, what he used to do. You heard about, going to the gym early and then before practice, and then have practice and then staying after. Michael Jordan, like, so when you think about these things, like, what are you doing to separate yourself from, I don't know, are you in high school, college? I'm sorry, high school. So your class, right? So I was class of 2011. I'm like, when I was in 8th grade, I was like, I'm going to be the best linebacker, running back in the class of 2011. How do I do that? If I'm in the gym working out, if I'm giving up on a set or rep, I just let that person just pass me. They just went right past me. I just gave up my scholarship. I kind of kept that mentality. So every time I went to the gym, it's almost like something was like a person's behind me, following me. I'm like, oh man, I missed that set. Oh man, they crept up behind me. And then so when I kept that mentality, it kept me hungry, and I never anytime I wanted to give up, I didn't even have to have a coach really. My uncle or my family were like, come on, let's go. They'll be there for me, but in the gym, like my mindset or on the field, I'm like, oh no, I can't give that to that person. That's that imaginary person that's there, but it helped me. So that's a piece of advice I would give.
Any other questions? Reggie, you want to answer
I would
that
just
too?
say encourage you to maintain your love for the sport. You know, a lot of times, like I said, now everything is so rigid and, you know, again, self-discipline is critical, but enjoy what you do.
That's real. That's real.
Life is not, you know, life is short. If you don't have that same hunger and passion for the game you're playing, you need to either transition to something else or rekindle that passion and love for what you do. But have fun, enjoy. It's a game. It's not life. Because right now, at high school, you know, this is when you enjoy it. I would tell a lot of guys that said we're going to the NFL or we're in college, it's not what you think it is. So while you have the time to enjoy and really pursue and become the best you can be at your sport, make sure you're enjoying it.
That's good.
Right there. While she's answering the question, I want to make sure you heard the undertone. He said, enjoy. Collegiate and professional sports is now stressful. It's a business. And the way it's structured, the fun may not, the opportunity to enjoy it may not be there.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth. I'm from Emory University. Dr. Martin, I was hoping you could talk about what preventative measures are currently being taken to help support players while they are still current athletes. And if you aren't happy with the current measures, what vision you see for the future. Thank you.
That's a loaded question. I think the National Football League does an incredible job, and this is not a political response. I really do believe that they provide enormous support for their players. So, for example, every team has a person like myself. This was collectively bargained by the National Football League Players Association and the NFL to provide mental health services. So in my capacity, not only did I provide those services to individuals, players, coaches, staff, and business. And so I have a number of people that I work with that also help me do that. So every team is designed to do that. And then we offer our rookie class, for example, about 35 programs before they actually began the league. So I think that there's been a very robust effort to address the issues both from the standpoint of prevention as well as during the league. Are there things that we can do? Yes. I think that there's always room for improvement because there's always changes. So how do we work now with players that have made a lot of money through NIL, that have a lot of money and they like, hey man, I might not want to work this hard right now. So how do we encourage these young men to understand that this is the business of the NFL? So that's a great question. But I will say this, and this sort of relates to one of the questions you were going to ask. I think we can do more with families, and you know, that's something that I feel firmly about and something that I try to do on our team, independent of what the National Football League is doing. So I think family is where it is, you know, that's where it starts. And I think the earlier that we can begin those conversations, even at the high school and collegiate level, and I think the league is doing some of that, but I think that will help address some of the concerns that you guys experience.
Yeah, I want to add on. I think that, and I really want Quentin and Reggie to answer this, but if you think about the sport of football, the regimen of it all, it's regimented. Weight room, film room, breakout room. And so I believe the protocol that's needed to show more value for players is in the position coach meeting rooms. So Quentin sat with his DB coach 100 times for a 40 or 50-minute meeting, and he broke down film individually, but those position coaches dangled the playing time. And so if they were trained to talk about psychosocial wellness, and it was integrated into the operations of football. So we open up meetings with prayer, we breathe deep, and we spend 3 minutes on your mental. And if every team in the NFL, if every college team did something like that, if every high school team just had the position coaches focused on this, the athletes would be more interested in it and more prepared over time. The repetition is the mother of skill. So Quentin and Reggie, just comment on that if you could.
Yeah, I think that's a good point you made. I think even like, which was pretty cool to see, I think a couple weeks ago was, I forgot what was it, receiver on the Eagles. He had
the wide receiver, reading the mindfulness book.
So
12 million copies, the author should thank him.
Yeah. AJ Brown.
AJ Brown, yeah.
So AJ, go first, let's go. So AJ literally was reading a book. If y'all didn't know about this, he was reading a book called Inner Excellence. Boom, look at that. She got the I love it. So she got the book. So Inner Excellence, I haven't read the book, but it's just even that, like sitting on the sideline after a play and just reading a book, getting your mental right, affirmations, just getting your mind in a game. So you can go out to the next play and like, okay, if I messed up, or even if I did good, hey, I keep my confidence going. For me, back in, I remember college or in NFL, for me, I go sit down and I'm talking to the Lord after a play. I'm like, thank you for that play. I want to go back out and make the play again. Okay, so same thing, like what works for you? What works for you, right? And I think that's key, that's a great, like being able to integrate that. But the position coaches needing to go through a course or class to be able to allow that, and because that's needed. We're playing a high stress sport. You got to remember so many plays. Something could change on a dime. And then you go to the film room the next day and you're like getting, maybe cursed out at in the film room or whatever. But it's like, what if, you get a chance to take a deep breath. Let's get a chance to really like get our minds together before we even dive into this session. I mean, that's what literally the company that I have is like, we do that stuff with like bigger companies like Amazon. So it's like, why can't we just integrate that right into the NFL?
I love that.
Well, for me, again, I had a coach when I was in Tampa that was more relational in our respects. Tony Nathan. He was a former player. Not that Don Bro, who was the coach when I was at Washington, he wasn't as, relational in terms of, that connection. Don Bro knew his stuff, he was good, but Tony Nathan was former running back. He had a better perspective, and we clicked early because he understood what I was talking about, because we had a couple of, if I disagreed with something, he could talk me through it. But to your point, being able to develop that relationship, and I'm seeing now, like I said, younger guys that leave Notre Dame and go on to the pros, they've come back and said, hey, you were right, because for the longest time, the relational aspect of that coaching film room, it was literally just, all right, they just come in and start the film, and we go to watching and critiquing your performance. And, Coach Nathan, he would ask, like I said, hey, how's the family? My wife was pregnant at the time, like, how's she doing? There was a connection there that went beyond the playing field, and it actually helped me to kind of like breathe, and like, this is not going to be a gotcha session and bashing your head. It's actually with someone that, hey, I'm going to be more attentive to the lessons that he's going to present, because I'm hearing him that he actually cares about me. And that, when you think about it as a coach, if you find a coach that cares about you, not about what you can do for them, because that's what the NFL mainly is what can you do for me? And they focus in on the athlete because you're the product that is being presented on the field. But if you have someone, you're more inclined to, okay, do a little bit more if this person actually, you feel that they care about your well-being. They care about your family's well-being. So I love the idea of, like I said, incorporating family. I appreciate, Tampa Bay, because at the time, Tony Dungy was the coach, and he did a great job. Like, the families were incorporated in practices. Like, families could come watch practice, which was not allowed at all. And I got to know his kids. They got to know my kids, And it was like, wow. And that's probably why, I mean, leaving Tampa or getting cut from Tampa was such a traumatic, instant, because I actually was invested in the community and the team that was kind of ripped away from me, and that had a greater impact on me. But I could not agree more with coaches having a more better learn how to understand the athletes that they're dealing with.
Questions?
Another question?
Here's one up here.
Where's your hand? Okay. Stand up, let us know who you are.
Hello, my name is Jazara Bell. I attend Geo Next Generation High School in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I am a 10th grader in dual enrollment for BRCC, and I had a quick question. I wanted to know what measures can be taken or are being taken to make sure these things are being integrated in sports for all ages, such as high school. And I also wanted to know, to further deep dive in that, I wanted to know what goals or achievements do you have to interpret this everywhere for men and women in all types of sports?
Yeah, wow, that's a deep question. Give her a hand, guys. So I'll try to frame it. So in this, we're gonna deal with pro sports last, but the beauty of sports in high school, elementary, high school, and college is that it diversifies the person's makeup, right? You get to be academic, focus on academic, but it also gives you a broader experience. So that's why athletes are really, really great people, because they have to do two things. And so I think the high school level and the college level, there's tremendous opportunities to just tie it into the curriculum. So there's a department of psychology, a department of sociology. They really just need to take these experts to write the curriculum and say, hey, what kinds of things can we teach in fifth hour that will make all of you all go to class and learn? And so I think that when you have an educational mission, it's much easier than just having an entertainment mission. So I don't know if you guys want to expand from that.
I'd like to touch on, again, like I said, I have 3 daughters, and all of them play the sport. My oldest actually had a track scholarship.
Lean into the mic a little more, Reggie. Yeah.
My daughter had a track scholarship, and she just didn't want to run track anymore. That really hurt my heart. But I like the idea of, like I said, at the high school level, incorporating the families. I mean, I think this is where, again, I'm not saying families come in and coach, but there's the importance of relationship with the family and the athlete, because if the more the coach can incorporate the family, because again, that's your support system. And the better you can understand, they can better understand you, the better they can understand how to coach you. Because so many times we as coaches, they'll have this is what I do, this is my program, and this is how it goes. So you have to adapt to the program versus the program adapting to you and the skill sets that you bring. And the more we can understand the athlete, the individual, the more that they'll get out of that athlete, and the more the athlete will get out of playing the sport, because it's not just, again, something that you have a passion for, that you love. Like, I ran track because my mom wanted me to run track. She enjoyed it. It gave her a lot of joy. I played football because my dad wanted to play football and I was good at it. But it was because I wanted to see them, and I wanted to see the joy and smile on their face, that I did it. But I learned to enjoy it because I had coaches, like my dad was my first coach in football, but I had a relationship with him that went beyond the sport. And as an athlete, and again, I worked at a university and we did recruiting. And the thing that I always saw with athletes is that you're developing skill sets that most students don't get. The ability to work within a team, the ability to process information quickly, to adapt, These are all skill sets that companies will go to the mat for. And we need to let you guys know that you're developing those skills right now in high school and college, and those are marketable skills that translate to other areas in life, you know. And so how do you make that transition so you're still playing the sport, but know that you're learning something that's going to make you a lot more attractive in a business, and it's something that you enjoy doing.
I think like I love what you just said, by the way. Like being able to, those skills are. How many people are able to get a chance to like play a sport at a high level, be on a team? Because you get a chance to learn how to be on a team. You get a chance to learn how to lead. Even if you're not the leader, like you're learning to work together. And if people that in any team environment, it doesn't have to just be like heavily sport related, but any team environment, you get a chance to learn those skills, and then you're sweating, you're doing your thing. Those skills, yeah, they definitely transfer for sure. Like you definitely transfer them post career. I think like answering your question too, like creating some type of certificate program is almost goes along the lines where you talked about, like for across the board from high school, college to NFL, where it's like a program that you have to go through, similar to like CPR. Like you got to learn CPR as a coach. Every coach going through a program that is focused on some of those heavily things, so they can learn how to communicate to the players, learn how to take them even through. Maybe post session, there's implementation of the mental health aspect that's imparted into some of the programs for schools. So maybe I'm thinking just off, just top of my head, is like creating a program around that everyone has to take, just like NASM for becoming a trainer. You have to take this program before you become a coach. And that is a route to take to help solve that problem. Just throwing it up in the air.
Maybe one more question, but I'd try to answer that question by, if we want to give you a simple answer, right? I would just say, if you create programs of accountability that participants, students, young people agree with. So I can do X, Y, Z, and I'm going to do it. So grading systems, rules, and if sports teaches us anything, athletes know how to follow rules with coaches, right? But they don't always follow the rules in the hallway or on lunchtime. And so we just create greater systems of accountability that young people buy into, then I think we got a shot at growing through sports. Yeah.
All right, thank you for your perspective, gentlemen. I appreciate the men's panel. I cannot imagine being 25, 26 years old and having to completely search for another career. You've got a room full of healthcare professionals that have spent decades attaining various degrees, and if we all lost our license tomorrow, we'd be in a pickle. To that end, we are often told to think about a side gig, think about an alternative source of income. But I'd like to get you all's perspective on what advice you would give to continue to explore those as we're in these highly demanding careers, to make sure we do have a little something to fall back on, that kind of thing.
I'd like to respond to that question because it's one that I've often thought about throughout my career, and that is developing other skills that the foundation that I have, whatever that education may be, for all the healthcare professionals in the room. I think it's important, just like as an athlete, to realize that, as you so well articulated, that what we've learned are translatable skills. And I think we need to lean into those translatable skills, sometimes doing something during your off time, if you have off time. But to realize the world is rapidly changing, as I think everybody in this room understands and appreciates. And so therefore, it's incumbent upon you, not only in terms of your development as an individual, but also in real terms to develop other skills that can apply to a work, to a job. and to realize that change is inevitable, and so you have to rapidly make those transitions in order to survive. And so I think the more we lean into the reality that that may happen, just as I have to tell young athletes very early on, maybe in their second year rather than their first, that it's important for you to develop skills that are translatable. What are the things? Discipline, for all you guys that are starting right. Focus, concentration, consistency. For individuals that, like yourself or myself, those are things that we know, they're inherent, but sometimes we have to lean back into that, and sometimes that's uncomfortable. But the reality is, if we're going to continue to survive till the end, we have to really lean into all that we have in order to be successful. So that requires emotional intelligence. Okay, you guys probably have heard some of those terms. That applies to some of the very important things that your parents have taught you about relationships. And so I think during difficult times or times of change, I think it's important to lean on all of the possibilities, all the things that we've learned, and pull that together. And that's hard, and it's scary, but we may not have any other alternative. So that's my long-winded response to your question.
Yeah, we're right at 2:15, so I'm a rule follower. But I'd like to close with this comment. I think these things are messing with our mental health, and so we all have to turn them off. We also have to understand that technology is going to dominate the world of business, and they're trying to displace us all. And Chat GPT and other tools like that make us dumber. And so we got to have the healthy dance with technology, but the psychosocial impacts of that are real. I'd sit with my wife sometime, and we both on our phones. We're not talking. That's a shame. I love going into bars or restaurants and you see couples talking. Nobody has their phone. We got to get back to more of that. So I'm going to put a shameless plug. I hope you guys come back tomorrow. We're doing a psychosocial wellness activation with Xavier Cheer tomorrow. They won the national championship, but we have a company called Radical Hope that's going to teach some young people how to use the skills that can be taught if we all get together. So I want Liz to just stand up. I want everyone to go meet Liz. They got a phenomenal concept. And her team. If you're a practitioner, I really want you guys to meet and learn what they're doing. And if you're an athlete, I want you to go meet with them too.